Welcome to the Wealthy Woman's Podcast, a podcast for high-achieving women who are great at making money but struggle to build wealth. You'll learn how to take control of your money, increase your net worth, and make more. Ladies, it's time to create a life with more money and more freedom. Let's dive in. Well, hello there, everyone. I hope you all are having a fabulous start to your week. I am enjoying the beautiful summer, and I just came back from vacation and I have a couple more coming up. So I'm super motivated, super excited. And today I'm going to be recording a podcast about earning more in your career. So that's what today's podcast is all about. And I'm going to be recording other podcasts today. So today is a podcast day. So I'm super excited. I've had my coffee and I'm ready to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it today. Today, we're talking about how to earn more in your career. So in last week's episode, we talked about how to earn more, period. And today we're going to kind of narrow it down to how to actually do it if you're in a career. You could be a doctor, a lawyer, in sales, in marketing, an accountant, whatever it is, a nurse, whatever it is. You can take what I'm going to share with you today and really apply it. You're probably going to learn some things that you probably have never heard before today. And I'm so excited to be able to share it with you. It's just going to really be a way for you to just start thinking about the value you bring to your employer differently and why your employer pays you in the first place, right? It's not because you're a good person. It's not because of your hours. They're not paying you for your hours. They're paying you for the value that you bring, how you affect the bottom line. Listen, your employer is in business, so they're always concerned about the money, right? And you as the employee, you are there to either make your company more money or to save them money some way or another, and maybe even save time, right? So you really do have to understand why your employer pays you. And so this is super important because you really do need to understand what that definition of value is. So your employer is not paying you for who you are, for your smarts, for your hours. They're paying you for the value that you can contribute to the organization, right? And remember, value is the usefulness of something. So you have a skill set, you have a talent, you have a gift that is useful to the organization that can save or make them money, okay? Now, this is so important to know because you should be making your employer way more money than they are paying you. That's just the name of the game, right? And when you can really recognize that and really think about, okay, how much money am I really making them? Then you can go into these negotiation conversations much differently, like when you're having a compensation conversation at the end of the year, when you're doing your mid-year or end-of-year reviews, or when you're going for a promotion. If you are very well-versed in how much money you're actually making your company or how much money you are actually saving them, you will just have so much more power in the room, right? If you go in there knowing you paid me $100,000, but I'm making you $500,000, let's have a conversation about how much I'm making. Like you're just in you're in a much more powerful place at that moment. I want you to know that. Like, I want you to start thinking about, okay, how much am I worth? Like, how much am I actually making my company, right? Or how much am I saving my company? Some of us are in positions where we are directly bringing in income. So if you're in sales, when people sign contracts or buy things, that is direct compensation to the bottom line, right? Or if you're a doctor and when you do a procedure, that's money that comes in. If you're an accountant and you bill for your services, if you are a lawyer and you bill for your services, like all those kinds of jobs where you know exactly like, okay, I bill for this much or I sell this much and the company gets this much and they pay me this, then you really can calculate very easily how much you're bringing in every year. And it's just really good to know that. Once I started to think like this in my career, I started to really feel valuable. Like, oh my gosh, I make this much, but look how much I'm bringing in. And I started to feel proud and like valued and valuable. Like, no, I am here. They're not paying me just to pay me. I am a valuable part of this team. And so it just really did something to me when I started to think about it this way. Okay. And when you really start to like look at that, you'll understand how your employer may be thinking about you. If they can recognize, which I'm sure they do, that, oh my gosh, this lady is amazing. She's bringing us in way more than we're paying her. Like, we brought her here. This was her goal. This is how much we wanted her to make us, but she's making us this. Oh, absolutely. We need to keep her. And when they think that way, that's when they start to say, okay, we want to pay her more than just the normal 1% to 3% merit raise that we give everybody at the end of the year. We want to keep her. We want to figure out a way to keep her satisfied and happy. And of course, that's going to be by how the way they treat you, but also how well they pay you. And I will share some examples a little later around how I have really experienced this. Actually, I'll go ahead and share one with you right now. So I received a call one day from my manager's manager. So not my manager, but his manager. And he called me on the phone one day. I was just in my car, actually sitting in the parking lot. And he just literally said, "Hey, Jermaine, how are you?" And I said, "I'm fine," kind of nervous, wondering why he was calling me. And then he just simply said, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that we are giving you a $10,000 bonus." And I was like, really? This was like out of the blue. This was not around mid-year review or end of the year review or anything like that. And so when I got home, he told me, he said, "When you get home, open up your email. There'll be a letter and all you have to do is sign it and send it back. And then the money will be deposited in your account within the next couple weeks." And I was just like so blown away. I was so excited. I didn't know what to do. So I went home and I opened the email and guess what it said? It said, I should say, guess what it was? It was a retention bonus. So he had gotten word that I was interviewing for another position. And this is actually another story. So my direct manager had left and gone to a competitor, and she didn't directly recruit me to interview, but someone else did it on her behalf to go interview for this new position. And I did. I had already decided that I wasn't going to take it. It just didn't feel like a good fit. But that's another way to know if you're really valuable, because your managers want to take you with them when they go somewhere. But anyway, so he had gotten wind of that. So my boss's boss had gotten wind of that, and he wanted to keep me because I was so valuable to the team. I was so valuable to the bottom line, and he did not want to lose me to the competition. And so he was willing to pay me a out of the blue $10,000 retention bonus. And the wording of the bonus was, you agree to stay with the company for the next 12 months. And if you don't, then you have to pay it back at a prorated amount. But like I said, I wasn't planning to go anywhere anyway. So it was such an amazing experience. But this is what I mean by, if you are valuable, if you are making your company or your boss way more money than they're paying you, they will be willing to share that with you, but they also want to keep you. And remember the saying, and they usually use this when they're talking about marriage, but it's cheaper to keep her, right? They're like, listen, I'd rather pay her a little bit more money, pay her some money. And remember, that's a drop in the bucket for most companies. $10,000 is a drop in the bucket. But they were willing to do that to keep me, because to replace me would have cost them money. Not only for, having to recruit and train, but also they could potentially pick someone that wasn't as valuable, that wasn't as useful as I was, that didn't have the same skills that I had. So if I was bringing in, 10 times what I was being paid, they may come in and only bring in 6 times what they were being paid. You know what I mean? So it's really important to just know that. I wanted to share that with you because it's a great illustration of what it means to be valuable and why your employers are paying you. They are not paying you for your time. They are not paying you because you're a great person. They are not paying you because they owe you something. They are paying you because they want you to bring value. They want you to put in more than they are paying you. And they want you to contribute to the bottom line. Okay. And so it's so important for you as the employee to recognize that and to be very well versed in how much you are worth, right? And listen, we're not talking about human value. We're not talking about your human worth. That is consistent 100%, but we are talking about what you are worth, and I'm using air quotes, to your company. And that is how much money you make them or save them, or you may be in another profession where, you're not directly affecting the bottom line, but you are doing something that helps the company stay afloat. You are doing something that makes the company money, maybe not directly, but somewhere down the line. For example, let's say you're in risk management. You may not be selling anything or like bringing in money directly, but you are saving the company money by keeping the company safe, by keeping the employees safe, by making sure that, the company is being compliant so that they don't get into trouble, that they're not breaking any laws. You are affecting the bottom line. You just have to really understand what your job is, why your job is valuable, and then figure out how you can be more valuable than what they want you to be. And I'm not saying to overwork or to be taken advantage of. I'm talking about being strategic and being useful and being the kind of employee that they don't want to lose. Being the kind of employee that they want to give you a $10,000 retention bonus out of the blue so that they can keep you. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 main things today. The first one is all about attitudes you really want to avoid if you want to make more in your career. We're also going to look at ways to be more valuable at work. And then we're going to talk about how to prepare for those compensation conversations. Okay. And then we're going to do a recap and then we'll be done. So number 1, here are some attitudes that I really, really advise you to avoid if you want to earn more in your career. And these are just thoughts, right? Remember, our thoughts are so powerful, right? Our thoughts create feelings in our body. They create our emotions, and those emotions and feelings determine how we're going to show up, right? So when I share these thoughts with you, imagine how you would feel if you thought them, and then how you would show up as an employee if you thought these thoughts. Okay, so here they are. They don't pay me for that. That's not my job. That's above my pay grade. Or that's not in my job description. If you think this way at work, you will very likely be the employee that just gets the 1% to 3% merit raises every year. And that is because when you think this way, it blocks your creativity, right? Because you're feeling apathetic. You're feeling kind of just blah at work. When you feel that way, you don't show up and give value as your best self. You don't use your God-given gifts and talents, all of the ideas, all of the solutions that your brain can offer you that will help make your company more money or save them money. You block all of that when you're thinking this way, right? It keeps you ordinary. And listen, if you want to make more in your career, way more in your career, then you want to be extraordinary. You don't want to be ordinary. And remember, we're not talking about being, taken advantage of. We're just talking about showing up as your best self so that when you're not in the room, people are talking about you, that you are someone that they don't want to lose, that you are someone that they are willing to invest in, right? And when you're thinking that this is above my pay grade or that's not in my job description, and when you have thoughts like that, it keeps you stuck. It keeps you thinking and feeling way differently than if you were an employee who's like, no, I'm here to contribute to the bottom line. I want to make this company successful, right? So those are thoughts that I really want you to let go of if you're thinking them. And this would really, really help you. Okay, so next we're going to go on to number 2. Ways to be more valuable at work. So remember, we are not talking about your human value or your human worth. I just really want to make sure we're clear on that, because you are 100% worthy, 100% valuable all the time. But we are talking about your value that you contribute at work. We're talking about how to be a more valuable employee at work. Here are 5 ways that you can do this. Number 1, be a problem solver. Bring solutions. So many times, I've worked with so many people who are always pointing out problems. This isn't right. This isn't fair. This isn't the right way to do things. This sucks, all those things, right? But they never ever come to the table with a solution. And so for me, I made a decision a long time ago that if I was going to have a problem that I was going to share, if I was going to share a problem that I noticed, I was also going to bring a solution, right? And so that is something that you too can be very vigilant about, because your brain is always searching for what's wrong, right? It's always surveying for quote unquote danger or what's not right or what's wrong. And so you want to also just make a pact with yourself that every time I see a problem, before I share it, before I speak up, I'm going to also have strategized or brainstormed some potential solutions. And it's up to the people, ahead of you or above you to decide if they're going to take on those solutions, but at least you can be seen as a problem solver. Number 2 is to be great, not perfect. Embrace the B+ mentality. Listen, I am a Virgo. I am a recovering perfectionist, and I like everything to be perfect, but being perfect or wanting to be perfect will stifle your creativity. It will keep you stuck. It will keep you living in your comfort zone because you're afraid to mess up, right? So if you could say, I am going to be great at work, but I'm going to let go of perfection so that I can really just get things out there, get things done. So embrace a B+ mentality versus an A+ mentality. B pluses are still really, really good, right? And with B pluses, you can get your work out there. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe there's still some things that need to be worked through. But let me tell you, I learned this a couple of years ago from someone, and I can't even remember who it was. But if you think about it, if you have to be perfect at everything before you release it, a lot of times you won't contribute or release anything because you think it's not perfect. But if you can embrace that B+ mentality and know like, okay, this may not be perfect, but at least it's done. At least I'm contributing something, some value that can really be important to the company, then you can let that release. And then maybe if you share it, another person may have an idea of how to make it even better. And then you all can create something amazing that can really help the company, right? And you can get lots and lots of accolades for it and be shown or known as someone who's super valuable. But if you have to wait until it's perfect, a lot of times your ideas will never ever see the light of day. Okay. So like embrace great and let go of perfection. B+ is still really, really good. Number 3 is be conscious of the bottom line. Save or make them money. And we talked about that at the very beginning, but really know what you're there for or why you're there. You are there to affect the bottom line in some way or another. And if you don't know how you directly do that, then that is something that I highly recommend you start thinking about. Ask yourself, why did they hire me? Why am I valuable? Please hear me when I'm telling you, you are valuable. Right? You may not know exactly how you're valuable, but if you start to really think about it, look at your job description, maybe have a conversation with your manager, but figure out what your job is. How are you affecting the bottom line? And then do it even more. Again, we're not saying overwork or be taken advantage of. We're just saying show up and do more than quote unquote what's in your job description. And that doesn't necessarily mean working longer hours. It may just mean being more effective when you are working. It may mean letting yourself be a little bit more creative. It may mean being solution oriented and sharing your ideas. If you see something that could be improved upon, actually sharing that and maybe working on a project to see how you can make it even better. Then you can actually even start enjoying your job more when you really are really in tune to being a valuable human being at work, because that is part of who we are as humans. We like to be valuable. We want to be valued. That is our nature. And so why not let that be really used and contributed at work? Number 4 is to lead without authority. So this is, even if you are a manager, I'm sure you also have colleagues who are managers. Or if you're not in management, you can do this with your peers, right? Lead without authority, rally the troops, speak up tactfully, right? Be an encourager, avoid gossip. That is what it means to lead without authority. Like, I am considered a leader at work. Are you considered a leader at work? If you are always encouraging others, avoiding gossip, being a problem solver, always looking to contribute to the bottom line, you too are a leader, and you can lead without the title of leader, right? You can lead from wherever you are. And so I highly recommend you take that on as a leader. Even if you don't necessarily have the title, even if you don't have the authority, you can still be a leader. Okay, so now we're on to preparing ahead for compensation conversations or annual reviews. So here's the thing. Sometimes I think we just show up to these meetings like, okay, it's my annual review. I'm just going to show up. But I want to give you something to think about where you can actually prepare for those conversations ahead of time, like way ahead of time, like now. Okay, so first of all, I want you to think about coming to those meetings ready to evaluate yourself. Instead of waiting for your manager to evaluate you, how about you evaluate yourself? And you can do this very respectfully. So the meeting can begin and you can just say, hey, whoever your boss's name is, say, hey, I would just like to, if it's okay with you, I would love to share some things, right? I really have been reflecting on the previous year, and I really wanted to kind of share some things that I think went really well, some things that I know that I can improve upon, and what I'm really hoping to accomplish the next year. Is that okay with you? Most managers will be like, absolutely. And of course, they're going to get their chance to agree or disagree with you and add their input. But to be able to start that meeting off that way will be very powerful. It's putting you in the position of, hey, I'm reviewing myself. I don't need you to review me because I know what I did last year. I know what I did well, and I'm going to share all of those with you. I know what I can improve upon. Always have something that you can improve upon because no one is 100% perfect. And you should have a plan for, okay, what am I planning to do? What are my goals and aspirations for the next year? So I'm going to repeat those again. Respectfully request that you can just start off the meeting sharing, one, what went well, brag on yourself, advocate hard, right? Talk about all the things you did. How did you improve the bottom line? How were you a team leader? All the things. Be amazing. Right? And then share some things you can improve. One of the things you could say is, hey, I know I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and my goal is to kind of let that go a little bit so that I can be more creative and contribute more and just bring my best self to the job, because I know when I'm in my perfectionist mode, it stifles my creativity. That could be, I'm just saying that off the top of my head because that is me. Okay. And then maybe you could talk about your aspirations, what you want to accomplish the following year. That is a wonderful way to begin those mid-year or end-of-year conversations. And I actually learned this from one of my old regional managers, so I have to give credit. His name is Jerry Stovall, and he told me that, he had a niece who was just breaking into her career, and she said, she asked him, hey, Uncle Jerry, what's one piece of advice you can give me? He said, never let someone else review you, you review yourself. And so this is one way that you can actually do that. Another really great idea is to have a brag book. So I have a brag book, and I usually use it when I'm interviewing for a whole new opportunity. But I was thinking, why not use this even in your current role? Why not have a brag book of all the amazing things you did throughout the year so that it's documented, so you're not trying to guess? And so as you are in the year, and you can start this now, just pull up a Google Doc or some sort of notebook or journal and document all the cool things you've done, all the amazing things you've done that are part of your job description, but also that are over and beyond your job description. How did you solve problems? How did you help the team perform better? How did you make more money? How did you save them money? All of these are things that you can put in your brag book, right? And then when it's time to have that review conversation, you already have a list of things that you're going to point to. And you can just start documenting that like a Google Doc, or even you can use the Notes app on your phone to just jot down when those things happen. And then you'll be ready to have those conversations. Okay? And then here's the final thing I'll say about this. So we all know that nothing is perfect, right? And I talked about at the very beginning that any good employer will know that someone who is bringing in way more money than they are costing the company, or saving them way more money than they are costing the company, they are worth keeping, right? But sometimes some employers just don't get it. And in that case, you, my friend, should be willing to exit stage left. So if you are doing all these things, if you are showing up, going over and beyond, being way more valuable than, bringing in way more value than you are costing them, then this might be an opportunity to think about finding a different opportunity, right? And sometimes this can be because maybe the company you're at, there's just lack of opportunity. Maybe the people there have been there for years and they just don't leave. And so that doesn't create opportunity for you. You could be, unfortunately, being overlooked. Maybe the person who's directly supervising you, maybe there's something there and they're not really seeing your value, even though you're doing the things that I just talked about. You've given it a chance. And you know what? You're just not getting anywhere. Then guess what? You have the opportunity, you have the ability, and you have all of the reasons why another employer would love to have you. So the same thing that you're doing to make your current employer, really, really happy and really, really excited to pay you, you can share all of that with your future employer when you go on interviews, right? Help them to see why you will be such a valuable and great hire. And here's what I will say. A lot of times the biggest pay jumps do happen when you leave companies, right? When you leave one company to go to another one, sometimes that is where you get the biggest jump. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, right? And just know that when you do make the jump, if that's what you decide to do, negotiate, right? Negotiate your salary, negotiate your signing bonus, negotiate your vacation time, negotiate. I know that there are so many statistics out there that say that women make less than men, and I agree with that 100%. But there are also statistics out there that say that women tend to not negotiate, right? And so no wonder we are making less than men. Some of this, ladies, is in our hand, right? We can negotiate. We can ask for more. And I learned this from one of my male colleagues. His name is Paul Bobbitt. Shout out to Paul Bobbitt. He literally schooled me on how to negotiate. And I will never, ever take another position without negotiating. So let's recap what we talked about today. We talked about why employers would want to pay you more, right? We talked about attitudes to avoid. We're no longer saying that's above my pay grade, or they don't pay me for that, or that's not in my job description. Those thoughts do not serve you and will not make you more money in your career. We also talked about ways to be more valuable at work and how to prepare ahead for those compensation conversations. I hope that you got a lot out of this episode, and I would love, love, love if you would take the time to actually review the podcast, right? If you're enjoying this podcast, the Wealthy Woman's Podcast, I highly, highly encourage you, or I'm asking you to write a review. Talk about why you like it. I've been reading some of the reviews. I appreciate you so, so much. And so if you feel like you want to give a review, please do so. All right, I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hey, before you go, if you're ready to create a life with more money and more freedom, then you're invited to join the Wealthy Woman's Academy, my signature coaching program where you'll learn how to take control of your money and build wealth without sacrificing your lifestyle. To get started, head on over to JermaineFoley.com. That's Jermaine with a G, Foley.com. See you there.